Hey Jenny, alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is look at where you are and what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and feelings involved, another important day, relationship and feelings, death, lesson learned. And again, all I'm going to do is relay to you images and impressions that are already coming through. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of your current life and what gets brought up here. And I'll try to help connect as well. Usually we'll do some time, like where we're going in time, but we're going to put that away because of where we're going. Okay, so let us start. Okay, so here we have the Lemuria and Atlantis card, and this card comes through when it's either one of those, or it can also mean, like places that are currently unknown that once existed. It can mean even non-Earth kind of thing. In this case, it feels very much like I'm being pulled to Lemuria, which is a more passive energy. Doesn't mean you're passive, it just means that the energy itself is softer. And what's happening with the card now, based on like this huge shift happening with everyone, everything going on in the world, so to speak, everybody's shifting. When we get Lemuria, it's kind of like a message already coming through of having to go within, like whatever answers you are seeking are within. And I know you know this already, but this is being brought up for a reason. And it could be, for example, like looking for validation externally for certain things, not necessarily like oh, I'm good enough, not necessarily that, but more like validation in the sense of like, am I doing this right? Am I on the right path? Am I going in the right direction? And then looking outside of yourself to get a yes or no indicator, so to speak, rather than the internal GPS system inside that requires you to be silent and with yourself more often, especially these days. So if we're talking about meditation, let's say you're having trouble meditating, that just means that you need another way of meditating that you're not realizing. Oh, okay, I could be meditating while I am running or working out or doing a hobby or doing art or even talking to someone. It's all about meditation is about allowing yourself to go in a more relaxed brainwave, essentially. So just know that when you kind of zone out a little or you get nice and relaxed, you're already in a meditative state in that way. It's not that hard. You don't always have to sit there and go om. You know what I mean? So the thing is, though, about this is it does feel like you do need to take more time in a meditation, which means you need to allow yourself more time to sink into the brainwave that you need to go to and get out of the solution-oriented, problem-solving brainwave that we're taught to be in at all times in order to make it seem like we're achieving something. You know what I mean? So it's less about doing, more about being, and that's what I feel like is coming through with that card in general. Now, what you do with the majority of your time here, this is the give card, and in this sense, it feels like we're looking at this card because you are a giver of your time and energy in the sense of how a teacher is. So it feels like we're looking at a teacher aspect of yourself in Lemuria, and it feels like honestly what came through even when I was shuffling, it was all about balance, and it's about it's about teaching balance in a way where your students could actually see you do it, but it's about internal balance. So it was about syncing internal balance with the physical external balance that you can show people, like, hey, you cannot do this without being in this state of mind. Okay, so this reading feels like we're dealing with different states of mind and mind frames, and that could be because you can find that you are shifting perspectives greatly in the sense of what matters to you now didn't matter before, or vice versa, where you find that what is all of a sudden clearing from your mind, or you're able to, let's say it's a certain thought pattern you've had about someone, you're able to now kind of glaze over it and move on easier than you did before, type of thing. And so I feel like this would be just a message for you to continue in your efforts of learning to observe the thoughts that come in and let them go as they kind of fade away organically, naturally, not attaching to them. So it feels like we're looking at the idea of non-attachment, or the concept of non-attachment, which is really ironic because I'm about to go make a video about a couple of good techniques for non-attachment. But look into the concept of non-attachment, and it's not about not caring. It's about allowing and letting go. So that's what I feel like meditation is also coming through too. What's good about meditation is that it teaches you how to simply observe a thought rather than attaching to it in an emotional way, if that makes sense, or observing the emotion rather than attaching to the emotion. And this is so useful and helpful in letting go of things that no longer serve us, okay? But the give is a teacher of balance. So when I say this, what I see is someone who is doing the rock balancing. So this is like in a river where you get river rocks and you balance them. And what I'd like for you to do is actually go find a photo of these river rocks and the people who do this river rock balancing, these rocks run, you know, in water, or I don't think it's always in water, but that's what they're showing me. And why I'd like for you to see a photo of this, if you haven't already seen it, is to see if you vibe with it, if you feel pulled towards it, if it unlocks something in you. Don't analyze it. Don't think about it. Just allow yourself to see the photo and take in what is going on. And so it feels like that is how you are demonstrating to your students here in Lemuria how balance works, because you cannot balance those rocks if your mind and focus is not on the balancing act of the rocks. If you're thinking about something else, the rocks will tumble. So this is about alignment as well, and that's a big word, and I feel like that will do you very well and serve you the best if you focus primarily on making sure that you are in alignment as much as you can be. So the way, really, for me at least, to know when I'm in alignment is to know the elements of discord and when I'm out of alignment. So when I can recognize when I'm out of alignment, I go, oh, this is that thing that happens when I'm out of alignment, and that means that I'm not in tune with myself as much as I can be. And it's always good to be in alignment, because that's where like the greatest manifestation happens, and we want to be there. So what you want to do is look for the elements and the triggers within you that cause you disalignment. When you feel frustrated, when you feel like you're judging yourself, when you feel like it's kind of like doubt, you know, the lower vibrational emotions, when you just feel not in tune or at peace within yourself about something. It's like where you are really searching for answers, where you can't find resolution, you're searching for solution, resolution, answers. You want to drop that, and how you drop that is you go into your being mode rather than doing, because people don't realize, you might not realize that even thoughts are doing. Thoughts can be very action oriented when it comes to the type of thought you're thinking, like problem solving. Oh my gosh, that takes so much energy, right? Knowing that the answer is within you, you don't even have to try that hard, but in the doing of it and not allowing, not being, because when you're in being versus doing, you're allowing. When you are in the doing, there's a lot of resistance because you're trying to figure out one way to get to the answer or the right solution, versus in the being mode, you're just allowing for it to arise to the surface kind of thing. So that is why understanding when you are in disalignment is such a good thing, because it shows you where you want to be, which is in alignment. And so that can bring you back to alignment in itself by simply recognizing that, oh, I am in disalignment. Let me get out of the doing mode and drop into the being mode, okay? And there are a lot of ways you can do this, so find the one that works for you. Some people can simply just take a breath, focus on the breath, and they're there. Other people have different techniques, multi-step techniques. Whatever works for you, there's no right or wrong. Just make sure that you are taking care of yourself and trying to be in alignment with yourself at all times. So that's the give card. I also feel like there were other images that came to mind when we're talking about balancing. The concept of balance in itself, that may be a theme that you're seeing in your life, like simply, I need to be more balanced. And this could be in dieting and food and health. Like, I need to I need to put more vegetables in and less sugar. I need to do this and less that, and just make sure that the different areas of your life that come to mind right now, whatever's coming to mind, go over it and process it and see where it can become more imbalanced. And what really feels like is coming through is balancing the amount of power you give to those outside of yourself versus taking the power for yourself. Honestly, you should be fully empowered if you can, and this does come with alignment as well. And it's just so easy to give away our powers to our kids, to our partners, to our parents, to peers, even people that we even admire. We want to give our power away, feeling like if we attach our power to them, or we give them whatever it might be, our attention, our focus, our love, our admiration, that would be like a two-way street. But that's not the case. That's just you giving your power away. So just make sure that you are maintaining your own empowerment, and realizing that if you admire someone or you love someone, it doesn't mean you have to give anything to them. And that can simply even mean if you are a gifter, if you love someone and you show your love by giving them gifts, maybe that in itself is where you need to balance to see that you don't need to prove anything. Maybe that's what you need to hear, is that you don't need to prove anything. Okay? There's a lot of hectic energy and chaotic energy when I'm going through that card, and realizing that if you are feeling chaos within yourself, that in itself is disalignment. And to recognize that, it's like recognizing the difference between chaos over something that is outside of yourself versus momentum running through you, because they can feel very similar. They have a similar kind of energy that kind of goes like da 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 da, but one is in alignment and unravels and unfolds quite organically, and the other is like a tornado. And that picks up stuff and it adds external biases and opinions and emotions that are outside of yourself to the tornado within you, so that what you're feeling is not fully you, so it can't be fully in alignment, because it's not just your elements, it's the external elements. So you want to be in this lovely aligned spiraling, usually spiraling is not good, we talk about that, but it's this spiraling kind of aligned momentum versus the chaotic tornado momentum. There is a difference in that, and I feel like it's important that you do know the difference. Okay, enough on that. So let's go to the first important day here. So this card here is the Enlightenment card, and this I feel is coming through because this is actually what you are helping your people do, is to come into to evolve, to come into enlightenment in the way that your people do, because these people that we're dealing with here are already higher vibe than what we're dealing with here in our current reality today on Earth. This is the soul group card for the relationship, and that it feels because everybody here in this community that you are a part of is very much in sync and aware that they have chosen to come to this community. So what message is coming through is this idea of soul contracts and understanding your role in your community. And that can simply mean your little family. It can mean your block where you live. It can mean your city, whatever your role is in your daily living, in your existence. Understanding that you chose that role and also chose to come in with a certain dynamics to other people connected in such a way to learn from each other in that way can help you in so many more ways, and can help you get into alignment actually, because people that might frustrate you or throw you off, if you understand, okay, I see your role, I see my role, I see what you're doing is triggering me in this way so that I can rise above it and evolve. When you can see that you have chosen every moment that you live, it has come to that moment because of the choices that you have made. You can say, I chose this moment, even in a moment of great anger or frustration or sadness or despair. It alleviates not responsibility, it alleviates a burden, because when you realize you have chosen to be where you are at the moment you are there is something very significant, profound, and beautiful about that, and you cannot dismiss it. You can't dismiss it. You can't write it off as insignificant, because it's quite significant. To write it off as insignificant, that you chose to be where you are when you're there, would be being in denial. And we're not here to be in denial. Right now we are all shifting into a more authentic version of ourselves. So when you remember that you have chosen the role in your community as it is, then you remember that you have a soul contract there, that you made it that way, but also that there is free will, and because you recognize it now, if you choose to shift out of the role and change, you can always do that and readjust your path however you want. You're not stuck in a role. You're only stuck there when you don't understand how you got there, and then you just allow it to perpetuate. But when you understand how you got there, and that you got there because of you, that means you're in control and you get to make decisions about your life. You see? So just consider that, and we're going to go right here to the emotion, which is love. Love, love, love. And I feel like the love card is coming through when we're talking about roles, because this is about loving yourself enough to choose what is best, what will best serve you. And also understanding that showing self-love is not selfish. It's a loving act to love yourself. It's quite loving. It is the most loving act to love yourself. How can you love others if you don't love yourself? You might think you love others, but really, when you're not filling your own love bucket all the way, and you're giving, and all your fuel is being spent on loving other people, that's just building resentment. It's not going to get you anywhere. Also, what it does when you're not filling your own love bucket and you're giving love to other people and not yourself, it's going to come with a bit of expectation and then a letdown, the expectation being that you expect love returned, and the letdown being when they don't, and then you're disappointed, but it's no one's fault but your own when you don't receive the love that you give out with expectation, if that makes sense. Not that you do that, but just a thought, food for thought, and see how this connects with your life with certain things going on. The question being would be, what are you expecting? What are you attaching expectation to? Take away the attachment of any expectation as much as you can. It's hard, I know. It's easier said than done, I get it. But try it and see how you feel when there's no expectation to anything either being returned or a certain outcome. And see how things play out then. Just do it for a day if you can, a week if you can. Just try it. It's a really good practice. Now the next important day, keep making connections where you can here. Now the next important day, this is the war card, where it's like either war is there, war is on the horizon or whatever, but it's not always physical war like battles. This can be war within the self. And I feel like this is coming up because it's part of your overall objective and contract in the life is to teach people about the wars within themselves, the wars of emotions within themselves, the thoughts, and learning to weed their way through it in a way where it best serves them, understanding how to separate, again, the external versus the internal. This is coming up in themes in my work a lot too. However, wait, there's something else that's going on with the enlightenment card. Hold on. Okay, first I do want to rewind and just let you know, as far as a past life, this day that we're looking at is a day of graduating students, so to speak. So you're graduating people who you have been teaching the art of balance to, and it is not a graduation like you'll never see them again, but it feels almost like you're training teachers to go out into the world and teach your specific modality of balance when it comes to internal balancing and external balancing, and fusing the two. Okay, so now we're down here. Okay, so this is a war within the self, but it's about, again, there's a newer aspect to training about the internal. There's something about an internal labyrinth. Hold on. This is like a very intricate internal psychological, emotional, spiritual fusion. So in your current life, I want to say it would be wise of you to, I want to say keep a journal, but it's more than just keeping a journal. There's something, if you are coming up with a philosophy, if you are developing a philosophy, I would encourage you to continue to, continue to, but write it out, start writing it. Start writing it in a way where others can read it and put it into action and improve their lives. I feel like there is something like you are you have stumbled across or come across or have channeled something that's like a philosophy, but it's almost so intricate that it would be hard for a regular person to just write out, but it feels like there's something like your brain, mind, heart, soul is working in such a way that is able to decipher it in such a way that when you write it out, it would help people understand it, or people can read it in a way much easier than if they come across it themselves, almost like such an intricate thought process that people would dismiss it because it would take a lot of thinking. Is what it feels like. And it feels like, if this is the case, Jenny, it feels like there is work that you are bringing through from this time to either complete or to bring back. Almost like if this aspect of you started writing a book on the philosophy and died and was like, oh, I'll finish it in another life. This would be the life that you're looking at now, would be to finish it. That's the kind of thing, is what it feels like. Or this aspect did finish it and presented it, but its lost knowledge and now it's coming back through you during this time where there's a great energy shift and people are starting to channel their soul work now. So be open to the idea that whatever is coming through you, or whatever you're channeling in whatever way you want to think on it, don't dismiss it, and don't make yourself smaller than you are. Don't discredit yourself. Let's say you have ideas or philosophies that come through where you feel like, oh, for anyone to listen to this, I would need a PhD in blah, blah, blah. And maybe you already have one, who knows, but if it's just a message of making sure that you do not disqualify yourself simply because you are not perhaps what the world would consider a scholar. Do you know what I mean? So just trust the work coming through and the messages coming through and the ideas and emotions coming through, and translate it in the best way that you can, the most organic way it's coming through. Just translate it onto paper, get it down, and see where that takes you, and see how you feel about that, okay? And this is the karmic relationship card, and this is very much about what I'm talking about. It's a karmic relationship with the contract to bring through this information. So I feel like there is information within you coming through, and this also might be where little droplets of information have come through throughout your lifetime, or even just in the past few years, or maybe just in the past year, or just the past few weeks. It doesn't matter. Look back at what you have. If you have written down certain things, or if you have taken notes or jotted bulletin points or whatever it is, see about accumulating it together, putting it together, and see how it works together, and see if it's cohesive in any way. Don't dismiss ideas. Don't dismiss ideas. There you go. So it feels like you have a karmic relationship with a mission in this life to bring forward a certain art form or philosophy that's going to serve a bigger purpose. Now this here is feels like this card is like the lonely card, or the it's not like lonely, but like it's like lonely, but it's not like a bad thing. It's like being with yourself and being okay being with yourself. If this card isn't indicating that you're going to be alone your whole life. Like, it's not like that. It's just about understanding that when you are alone with yourself, that is when these ideas really can make themselves known. When you appreciate the aloneness, the time alone, taking time for yourself, it feels like that would be very, very productive, actually. Just like how we were talking about doing versus being. Being is actually more productive than doing, because doing can just have you doing a bunch of tasks that get you nowhere, but you feel like you're getting somewhere because you're doing something. Being, meditating, being still, allowing, being in the awareness of the all, that kind of thing is actually more productive, because giving yourself that space to allow things to unfold and come up and surface within you could be ever so much more productive for this karmic mission, so to speak, to allow things to come through you, rather than action-oriented, purposefully seeking that information is so much harder. It's like swimming to the bottom of the ocean versus allowing yourself to just rise and pop up to the surface. That's the difference. Swimming is the doing, is the action, and there's so much resistance, versus allowing yourself to just be in the water where you naturally rise to the top and pop up to the surface, you see? And that's the being part. It's just being and allowing, and that's where you rise up. So just consider that. Take time for yourself. Don't feel like taking time for yourself is selfish at all. In fact, what I want to say too is this balancing thing is coming up as well, and the balancing thing can very well have to do with you making sure you give yourself enough time alone to be with yourself, but also the idea that you might actually want to take up or try the hobby of balancing stones or balancing items. And that might put you in a meditative, zoned out kind of place where your focus is so much on the balancing act itself of what you taught here, the rocks at the river, if you will, that could be very, very conducive to your work, like your soul work. It could be very helpful. That's why I feel like it's coming through, is like why the balancing life came through too, is because you need it. Like, and it's, yeah, it's metaphorically balancing your life, but also the physical, the hobby of like balancing. I mean, this can actually be like if you've ever liked gymnastics, if you've been in gymnastics and you were good on that balancing beam. Maybe you've had like something in your life where you're just good at balance, athletic or whatever it might be, good at balancing. On the other hand, sometimes we get opposite stuff where this is all about balancing. So in your current life, you actually might be a total klutz. Just because you've experienced such balance here. But, you know, it's funny how some things show up in this life, but it just feels like that kind of hobby, even something similar to it, where you can just place your focus on one task that you're doing, zone out. It's not too hard. You don't have to think too much. You don't have to do too much. You know what I mean? It's very zen, that kind of thing. It's almost like the feeling of it is parallel with getting one of those feng shui gardens, you know, or the little, you know, those little zen gardens that they have on a desk, and it's sand, and there's maybe a rock or two with a little rake, and it's like do 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 do, like that kind of thing. Okay. Ooh, or a Buddha board. That's also coming through. Look up Buddha board. See what you think about that. Okay. So, wait, I want to see if there's a data coming through, because there's a lot of information coming through, but what about the life itself, right? So we're looking at this. Really, honestly, I'm sorry it's not a very exciting life, but it's a really zen life. And I feel like all they're showing me here is just this, it's a woman, by the way, a female aspect, kind of just sitting, looking out over the water, being with herself, very serene. I want to say even the word serenity might do you well, might serve you in some way. Say like thinking serenity or saying serenity or serene or something like that might get you to a nice place in your mind, because words do hold vibration, and there are certain words that can really just instantly calm us. All right, so the death card. So this is the murder card, and all this really means is like, yeah, people have like been murdered, but like this is really about intent. So, you know, murder is intentional. So they'll just give me these cards when it's not volatile. Like it's not, you didn't get murdered, like in that kind of way. It feels like a self-intended dissipation of life, and it's a very gentle thing, quite frankly. It feels like, you know, when it comes to Lemuria, I don't know their practices, so to speak, when it comes to death, but it feels like what she did, at least, or maybe the people there, whatever it is they actually are aware of their exit points and know or choose when that would be. And so that's why we might get this intentional death card, because it would be an intentional death. Like, let's say she reached 900 years old. I don't know how long they lived. I'm just saying. She's 900 years teaching balancing. And she's tired. And she's like, I'm done. That's what it feels like. So it feels like a very long life until the time where she understands, like, okay, I'm done. I want to pick my exit point now. Bye. So that's just what it feels like, but it doesn't feel like it's attached with any messages or anything like that, unless you have issues when it comes to death, or the idea of how you feel about, you know, people that I think you can go to Canada and like choose to die there, like compassionate death. I forgot what it's called. There's a term for it, if you've heard of it, if you've had any trigger by it or emotional trigger to it or whatever it might be, but otherwise it doesn't feel like anything except a very good long life. And the whole life was pretty serene, and that can be shown to you because you might be experiencing chaos in your life, and you need to know that you had this long life of serenity, and you can always tap into that. So we're going to go to the lesson here, and this is compromise, and this lesson feels more about your current life than this life, but it's coming through in the sense of making sure you are not compromising your worth, your value, your time, your energy, you as priority. You're not compromising that, everything we talked about really, for pleasing other people, or because it's become a pattern or a habit that you do put someone first. And it could be a lifelong habit, like putting your parents first or putting an older sibling first. You know, it's just, it's ingrained in us. It's the only thing we've practiced, so we continue to allow it to be part of our lives in a habit or a pattern. And this is urging you to look at those patterns and see what patterns are no longer serving you. And these patterns are being perpetuated by you. It might feel like others are doing it, but it's you're allowing it. It's your permission. So you have to basically revoke permission when you feel that you're compromising your values or yourself or your time or your health or your anything, peace of mind even, just peace of mind. You shouldn't have to compromise that for anyone. For anyone. So just go over that and make sure that you are not going to continue perpetuating these patterns, because they're going to act as hindrances and obstacles and create more chaos, where it's time now to go within and be more serene and more in touch with yourself to bring through the information that wants to come through you in the way that I feel like there is this goal of getting to, or a mission to be working on, so to speak, for lack of better terms. You know what I mean. So anyway, there's your past life reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections here, and thanks for letting me read you.